Hey, let's go to the phone and bring in Tom Fornelli. He is the college football writer for CBS Sports.
Wow.
And let's set up Tom this way with the coaches poll that came out today, the preseason college poll that has Ohio State at #1, near unanimous at #1. TCU is #2, Alabama at 3, and so on down the line. Tom Fornelli, welcome to the show, Tom.
Hey, thanks for having me. How are you this afternoon?
Fine, just doing great. Let's talk about Ohio State right off the bat. Do you find it kind of odd that Ohio State got so many first-place votes, yet we don't even know who the starting quarterback's going to be?
It's certainly a unique situation that we're not typically used to seeing. But then again, this is the same team that last year that won a national title with its third-string quarterback. So you kind of get the sense that it probably doesn't matter who the quarterback's going to be. And now, after the Buckeyes announced today that they had 4 players suspended for the season opener against Virginia Tech, including Joey Bosa, you get the feeling that Braxton Miller will be playing a larger role at H-back in the season opener against Virginia Tech. So I just feel like with Ohio State last year, all the main talent from that team that won the national title is back. A couple of guys have moved on to the NFL that graduated, but your main producers are all back, and now you've got multiple quarterbacks ready and healthy. I'm more surprised that TCU and Alabama received a first-place vote than Ohio State getting 62.
I follow you. I mean, TCU being #2 surprised the hell out of me, to be
might have surprised TCU.
Yeah.
That more than anything. The suspensions, based on what I heard, Tom, this morning, that's reduced the line in Ohio State's first game at Virginia Tech from 12 to 10, so I don't think it's going to have a lot of effect on it, but you are losing maybe their best defensive player in that game. But do you really think it's going to affect them early in the season based on the suspensions?
No, I mean, as good as Joey Bosa is, and he's one of the best defensive ends in the country, Ohio State has plenty of talent behind him. They've recruited very well on the defensive side of the ball since Urban Meyer came to Columbus. So I don't think his absence is going to make that big of a deal for the Ohio State. What I think, as I mentioned earlier, is the 2 of the players that were also suspended, Jalen Marshall and Dontre Wilson, were Ohio State's starting H-backs last year. They were the guys that were going to play like that Percy Harvin kind of role that he played under Urban Meyer at Florida, and that Braxton Miller is making the move to supposedly this year. So I feel like they were probably going to bring Braxton along a little more slowly on the offensive side of the ball, as a running back receiver hybrid type. And now you wonder if they're going to have to, scrap those plans and maybe get him ready to play right from the start, simply because I'm not sure who they're going to put at those spots without Marshall and Wilson there.
He's Tom Fornelli. He writes college football for CBS Sports, and all our guests appear courtesy of Papa John's. Better ingredients, better pizza, Papa John's. Tom, you've seen the top 25 coaches poll. Who's ranked too high in your estimation? Who might be ranked a little too low?
I'm very surprised that LSU is at 13 because, like Ohio State, we have no idea who LSU's quarterback is going to be. One of them is actually suspended right now, and we don't know when he'll be reinstated to the team, if at all. But unlike Ohio State, neither of their options were really all that good. We saw both of them last year in Anthony Jennings and Brandon Harris, and neither were very impressive. This is a team that finished 8-5 last year, and offensively had a lot of struggles against the better SEC teams. They picked up some wins against the lower tier of the conference, but when it came to playing teams like Alabama and Auburn, they struggled a bit. So I'm not sure what the coaches saw from that LSU team last year going into this year to make them think it's the 13th best team in the country and put it ahead of teams like UCLA or Ole Miss, Arizona State, and Georgia Tech. And then another team that I thought would probably be underrated was there are 8 SEC teams in this top 25. 13 of the 14 teams in the conference received at least 1 vote on somebody's ballot. The only team not to receive a vote was Vanderbilt. But Mississippi State, a team that started off last year at 9-0, finished 10-3, was ranked #1 in both polls for 5 weeks during the middle of the season, is not in the preseason top 25 this year. It's in the others receiving votes, whereas teams like Arkansas and Tennessee, who both finished 7-6, get ranked in the top 25. Now, I understand the logic of Arkansas and Tennessee being, considered teams on the way up with a lot of youth getting another year of experience coming back. But just based off of what Mississippi State did last season and based off the fact that with Dak Prescott returning, they're one of the few teams in the SEC that has a clear quarterback situation where they know what they're doing and they know what they have. It just seemed odd for me to see Mississippi State left out of the top 25 altogether.
Who do you like sneaking in, Tom? I mean, every year there is a Mississippi State. I would consider Mississippi State and Ole Miss, even though we'd seen them coming, but I don't know that anybody saw them coming to where they'd be ranked in the top 5, both in the same year. Is there somebody you've gone, well, you know, I really want to keep an eye on this team because they're going to slip in the top 5 this year? Or are there a couple?
Yeah, there were a couple that crossed my mind. One team I'm looking at that I think will maybe not be great to start the season, but is going to get better as the season goes on and definitely sneak in maybe the top 25 or top 20 would be Michigan. I just think Jim Harbaugh's team is going to improve as the years go on because that's generally been the trend no matter where he's been. But as far as teams I think that have a chance to just sneak into the top 10 that aren't ranked right now, I would say Louisville, simply because if you look at the ACC right now, Florida State's still good, but it's not the same Florida State team we've seen the last few years. Clemson, I have some serious doubts about Clemson simply because as good as I think Deshaun Watson is, he hasn't proven to me that he can actually stay on the field for any length of time. And once he gets hurt, that team takes a big hit. So I see Louisville as a team with a manageable schedule that really could be a team that finishes maybe somewhere in that 9-3, 10-2 range and sneak into the top 10. And my other candidate would be Texas A&M. Simply because I really don't know how good the Aggies are going to be this year, but the SEC West is insane. It's going to be difficult for all involved. And if the Aggies get rolling, they do get both Alabama and Auburn in College Station this year, which is to their benefit, and then 2 tough games against Arizona State and Arkansas on neutral sites. And as we've seen with Kevin Sumlin at Texas A&M in the past, if he gets a quarterback, things can go very well on offense, and then with John Chavis coming from LSU to revamp that defense, if they can do anything on defense just to resemble a mediocre unit, because the last few years it's been awful, if they can just be mediocre on defense with that offense, if it gets rolling, the Aggies can be a very dangerous team.
I have one other question, Les, I want to bring up to him that I found fascinating the last couple of days. The ACC coaches all seem to be ganging up on Notre Dame, Tom, and saying, you can't play in the national championship game unless you join a conference. And I just think that's total bull.
Yeah, they play one of the toughest schedules in the country.
They're playing Stanford, they're playing USC.
What more do they need
They're
to do?
willing to play military academies. They play teams in the Big Ten. They play for everybody. They play the only really national schedule. Tom, do you agree with us that they're doing okay, or do you think they belong in the conference if they want to be in the BCS championship?
The funniest thing about this to me was when Clemson's Dabo Swinney was echoing those same statements, saying that Notre Dame needs to join a conference. Dabo Swinney coaches a team whose first 2 games on the schedule this year are Wofford and Appalachian State. I feel like if I'm Notre Dame, I would say, sure, we will gladly join a conference as soon as you all stop playing FCS opponents, because Notre Dame has never played a team from the FCS in the history of the program. So as long as these coaches are all, playing FCS cupcakes every year to get themselves that guaranteed win, I really don't think they have much ground to stand on. But it's just strange the way that it just escalates with coaches. When one says something, they kind of all just follow suit. It's a strange phenomenon every year at media days. The one coach will say something that's just kind of silly, and no matter how silly or stupid it sounds, there's always another 10 coaches who are like, yeah, he's right.
Yeah,
they should do that.
It's always T. Spurrier saying, I think we should all take our salary and give it to the players. And they go, what do you think about Steve's comment? Oh, yeah, we should all take Steve's salary and give it to the players.
that might be the one idea they don't
I just couldn't understand. So tell me, when Clemson and Florida State and Duke and North Carolina, how many movies have been about their football programs? I mean, Notre Dame's had like 14 movies, from Rudy to Jim Thorpe, Newt Rockney All-American, about Notre Dame has earned the right to be what they are, I think. And they have that TV contract. They're not going to give up that TV contract and go get in a conference. They're the only one that owns a network. Yeah.
Notre Dame has nothing to gain from joining a conference at this point. I mean, it's especially now that they've got the deal with the ACC where they're playing 6 ACC games a year. That's as close as you're going to get to having Notre Dame join a conference. And the only reason they did that was because the recruiting base in the Southeast is expanding, so the Irish wanted to make sure they were getting games down there in that region every year. That's the only reason the Irish even considered, that deal. They have no need to join a conference otherwise. They can continue to schedule who they want, play who they want, where they want, and when they want. It's really the perfect situation. And like you said, they have their own NBC television deal. They never have to worry about money stop coming in. So it's fun for coaches to say stupid things like that because we get to make fun of them for it. But in reality, I just don't see it happening.
Tom, this has been great. I really have enjoyed you being with us, and I hope you'll come back and spend some time with us during the course of the season because that was a great conversation.
What's your Twitter handle, Tom?
At Tom Fornelli. All one word.
Easy enough, and we can also find you at CBSSports.com. Appreciate it, Tom.
Thanks for having me. You guys have a good day.
All right, that's Tom Fornelli. All guests brought to you by Papa John's, the official sponsor of the Colorado Rockies. The day after every Rockies win, sorry, not today, you get 50% off your regular menu price online order.
You're not
you have to
sorry.
go to papajohns.com and use the promo code ROXWIN, ROXWIN.